Rabbi Sai, we are, Be'ez Hashem, starting a brand new sugya today within our sugya of Ben Adam Mechaver. I'm very excited. It's a brand new sugya, a very relevant sugya, and a very important sugya, and that is the sugya of Emes. Okay, it's very important when a person has a relationship, and this we'll discuss, by the way, when we get into the sugya of marriage, preparing for marriage, and as we have a course called Getting Married, Staying Married. My Rosh Hashiva of Shaimak Zatzal used to say that there's no kunst to get married, anyone can get married. Oh, but the kunst is to stay married once you're married. Okay, you with me on that one? Your mask on? Okay. So, David, are you with me? Okay. Let's discuss what we said the sugya today. It's a very exciting sugya. It's a very nagaya sugya. Like I said, it's a sugya that's nagaya to relationships. Because every relationship requires truth. If you want to have a relationship with your wife, if you want to have a relationship with your business partner, if you want to have a relationship with your Rebbe, with anyone, there needs to be a foundation of Emes, of truth, of trust. If there's no trust in a marriage, if there's no trust in a relationship, if there's no trust in anything, there's no relationship there. Okay? And that is a very important thing. It's one of the things that sometimes people ask me, how is it that you allow smartphones in the yeshiva? I get asked this from time to time, so in America. So I have different answers and whatever it is, but one of the things I say is very simple. At the end of the day, right, who are we fooling? Most guys are going to have a smartphone, and most guys actually do have a smartphone. So it depends. In other yeshivas, they'll fake it, pretend it, and stick it under the carpet, and they'll pretend they don't have a smartphone, and therefore they don't have a real relationship with their Rosh Hashiva or Rebbe, whatever it may be. Whereas over here, I prefer a real relationship. I prefer guys to be honest, guys to be upfront, and therefore anyone that's not that way is not going to have a real relationship. I like that mahalach, right? Okay, good. Okay, Baruch Hashem. / donate. Anyway, okay.
Are they smartphones or are they just smartphones, like the cover of a smartphone?
The point is that, we have to go with the times. Don't bury your head in the sand and pretend that you're in somewhere else. You have to know where you are. But again, every situation is different and every yeshiva is different, and I'm not answering for every yeshiva, and I'm not saying every yeshiva should have a smartphone. There are many yeshivas over there that absolutely should not have smartphones because they're dealing with boys that could do that are holding there, that could cope with that. That's beautiful, it's wonderful. But for many, many boys, for the majority of a lot of kids, it's not a gaya. So there's no point pretending and saying, oh no, we don't have smartphones for the world. We're not here for the world, we're here for ourselves. Okay, Rabbi say, so it's all about Emes, all about a real relationship, it's about trust. Let me give you today a little bit of an introduction into the sugya, okay? Rabbi said the throat is still, just give me, the quieter it is in here means the easier I'm able to speak without straining my voice, and therefore I'll be able to continue giving share, right? I don't have to, right? Okay. Now, I want to mention to you that, Menachem, please. I want to mention to you that there are many schools of Musa and Hasidic courts that would say that Emes, the trait, the midah of Emes, was one of the greatest attributes to work on. So even though we've said until now many things that a person should work on, and hopefully we will continue working on those things, and we're going to see why, that there are many schools of thought, of Musa, of Hasidus, that understood that the midah of Emes is a very, very important midah to work on. And the reason why they were striving to stay away from sheker, from falsehood, and everything else, is not only because the Torah forbade it, but also because a person becomes a more truthful person, which means he'll be able to serve the Ribbono Shel Olam in a different manner. And by the way, there's no greater trait, attribute, for a person being Emes to the Ribbono Shel Olam in his relationship with Hashem. When a person is a deceitful person, when a person is a fake person, so not only is he a fake person to himself and to others, he's fake to the Ribbono Shel Olam and his relationship with Hashem. And that's very dangerous. If a person is you always meet people who are a very truthful person, but not only to others, but to themselves. In other words, they know where they're holding. Have you ever heard of someone who is fadimioned? You know what that means? Fadimioned means that he's in a different world, he's in dreamland, he has no idea where he's holding. He thinks he's holding in A, really he's holding in B. And that's a very, very dangerous thing for a person, because he'll never work on himself and never become a better person because he thinks he's holding there. And when a person doesn't realize truthfully, the Emes, where he's holding, then how, Lemaisa, is he going to become a better person? We're here in this world, as we've said so many times, to work on ourselves, to become better people. And one of the greatest ways to become better people is to realize and understand where we are holding. To know where you're holding, you've got to be a truthful person. You have to know be'emes where you're holding. And it's okay sometimes to know that you're not holding in a good place. And it's okay sometimes to realize that you've done something wrong. That's fine. But for people that don't realize where they're holding and don't understand what they've done wrong, those people are not truthful people. And not only will it manifest itself in a business setting, it will happen in their own life and in their relationship with Hashem. Okay? Yeah? And that's why it's important for a person to work on this midah, because this is what makes a person truthful with himself and his relationship. Raf, just do me a favor, just put it in the middle. Yeah, thank you. Great. Okay, now, I want to tell you a very interesting thing. Listen to this, okay? It's very interesting. These are levels, by the way. I'm telling you high levels, Nochi. Telling you high levels, but it's important to at least know the high levels to know what at least we're trying to reach for. Okay, Simcha, you with me? Okay. There was a Hasidic court by Rabbi Frol of Barshid, and he was very much working on the mid of Emes, so much so, listen to this is an amazing thing. He would work on Emes that his Talmidim would walk into the Beis Medrash, or into the house, or into the yeshiva. Their clothes were totally drenched from the rain outside. You're talking about walking in completely drenched. They walked in drenched, and someone said to them, "Ooh, is it raining outside?" They would be like, "I don't know. A minute ago when I was outside it was raining. I don't know now if it's raining." Now that's a very high level, because most will be like, "Oh, come on, seriously?" But that's MS. Because if you're going to say, "Yes, it's raining outside, you're inside right now, maybe it stopped," that's not MS. Now again, that's a high level. I'm not saying it's an easy level to attain, but it's a level. And that's real MS. Real MS is to be sensitive, even to the small things, even to the things like that, where all you have to say is, "I don't know, a minute ago it was raining, I don't know right now." That's a very high level. But it's a level to try and get to. It's a level to try and realize. Rabbi Sol Salanta was very, very careful never to say a lie. And as a precaution, he never said a hesped. Now, by the way, saying a hesped is a big mitzvah. It's a very big mitzvah to say a hesped on someone, because you get people to be emotional, to cry. It's part of the chelik of the mitzvah of hesped. And he didn't want to, because I might exaggerate. I might say something that's not true. And therefore, I don't want to do that. And he was so makbid on the mid of Emes that he refused even to say a hesped in that case.
Exaggerating in a good way is still bad?
What's that?
Exaggerating.
Absolutely. Lying doesn't necessarily mean bad. Lying can even mean a good thing. I'll give you examples. 1 minute. We'll get there. But lying means anything that's not 100% true. I'll give you an example. The example that he said was he had no choice to give a hesped, because he once knew someone very well who was a big Yiras Shamayim, very, very good friend of his, a dear close person to him, and he said, "I have no choice, I have to give a hesped." So he gave a hesped, and he said, "Rabbi Sai, he was an Elachayid." Then he stopped himself. He realized, I don't know. How am I going to know if he was an Elachayid? I think he was an Elachayid. I don't know for sure. So he stopped. He went back and he corrected himself and says, "I'm correct. I think he was an Elachayid." Again, that's a high level. And to many of us, it's like, "Oh, come on, seriously. He was an Elachayid, whatever." No, because if you know who's saying it, and you understand the one who's saying it is so makbid on midas ha'emes, then you're not going to say that. Ashi had a question? Ashi had a question?
Yeah. Akash Baruch Hu lied. And he told Avram that Sarah said that she wouldn't be able to have kids with Sarah.
That's a good question. The Gemara in Bava Metzia deals, and we're going to get to that. Give me some time. Right now in the introduction. The Gemara is going to say certain times I'm mutter to lie, and we'll see why. And we'll see if we should try to do those things or not. But let's get there. First, I want an introduction to understand the Yesod of Emes, the Yesod of Sheker. Melech had a question?
That's so insulting to the family.
So that's what Menachem said. Menachem said it. So Menachem also said that. He probably was. But again, if you and me would say that, you're right. But when you know that the Gadol Hadar watches every word, and you know when he says it, he means it, then you're okay with it.
Worse, because you know he means it.
Because he knows that I don't know. Nobody knows if someone's an Elachayid. We think we know. Again, Melech, I'm saying, this is a high level. This is a high level. I agree with you. But it's a level to understand the sensitivity that they had towards Emes. Okay? I'd like just to stop questions for a moment, because we have a lot to do over here. I want to get to some of the Yesodis, and then I don't mind taking questions after. So hold your questions until afterwards, with pleasure. Okay. Now, the chinuch, we've mentioned this many times, that the chinuch, Eli, you with me? The chinuch brings down many times, for those of you that learn chinuch on the mitzvahs, which is beautiful, the chinuch says that sometimes your outer behavior affects your inner mind. That means, for example, just to give an example, let's say a person isn't into davening so much. He says, there's no point davening because I don't enjoy davening. So I'd rather not daven. The answer is no. First, you have an obligation to daven, but even without that, sometimes when you do something, it affects the inside. So just by davening and getting into it, it can sometimes automatically affect the emotions that you have inside. Therefore, a person is always recommended just to do it anyway. Now, when it comes to Emes, as you said before, the real Emes is the Emes that you have a relationship with Hashem. If a person learns to speak truthfully, even in the small things, even in things in business, even in things with his roommates, with his parents, with his friends, he learns to speak truthfully, it's going to affect who he is, how he acts, and eventually, which is the ikka, that's the main goal, the relationship with the Rabbeinu Shalom. Okay? And that's a very important thing. The Divrei Chaim, the Heilige San Zaruf, the Divrei Chaim used to every single day go over the foundations of faith, the foundations of emunah in the Rabbeinu Shalom. And he would sit on his bed every single morning when he woke up, and after Moida Ani, he said Moida Ani, he washed Negel Vasa, he would say with real emotion, real emunah, real truth, he would say there is only one Rabbeinu Shalom, and everyone knows this. There isn't a place in the world where God doesn't exist. We have to serve Him and do whatever we can for HaKadosh Baruch Hu's avodah. My whole desire is to serve the Rabbeinu Shalom. He would repeat this every day for up to half an hour. And then he went to go serve Hashem. And he said it helped him in his avodas Hashem. When a person serves the Rabbeinu Shalom Emes, it helps his avodah, it helps his quality in avodah. It's an amazing thing. Rabbi Sai, I want to give you some Mamori Chazal, Eli, of what Chazal tell us about the midah of Emes, because it's very, very important. Okay, listen to this. It's important to know this. There's a Gemara in Sanhedrin, Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph. Yeah? Zev. Sanhedrin Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph, where the Gemara says, this is very scary, this. The Gemara says there are 4 groups of people to which the Shekhinah never gets to them. In other words, there are 4 groups of people that don't merit to have the Shekhinah. I don't have to tell you this, but anyone that doesn't merit to have the Shekhinah, that you're doing pretty bad if there's no Shekhinah by you. Okay? What are these 4, or at least what's one of them? One of them, says the Gemara, look this up, Sanhedrin Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph, is a group of liars. People that lie, says the Gemara, do not get the Shekhinah. That's a very scary thing. We know, for example, one example is that when you have an ish v'isha together, they have the Shekhinah there. We have, right, and if there's argument, whatever, then it's ish, because there's Shekhinah. When you have a person learning with somebody else, there's Shekhinahs there, Mishnah Pirkei Avos. So we know there are many times the Shekhinah comes down when you have a minyan, you have 10 people. 10 people bring down the Shekhinah. There are many times the Shekhinah comes down. However, if a person is a liar, if a person doesn't say the truth, he's of the group of people where there's no Shekhinah. Okay?
The person gets the title of being a liar.
When he constantly lies. The Aruch HaTzadikim says that if a person is a liar, they don't even believe him when he's saying the truth. We all know the famous story from where? What's the very, very famous story? The boy who cried wolf. Right? It's a great, great mashal that even when you say the truth, they're not going to believe you because you're a liar. Nobody wants to be termed as a liar. Nobody wants to be known as a liar. Not in business, not in a relationship, not in anything. Rabbi Sai, the Mishnah Pirkei Avos in Perek Aleph Mishnah Yud Ches tells us, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Oimeh, Al Shloisha Dvarim Ha'olam Kayim. There are 3 things that keep the world in its existence, and one of them is Emes. You cannot have a world without Emes. You cannot have a world without truthfulness. You will not be able to continue the world, to live in the world, to be successful in the world without having Emes. The Reishish Chochmah, this is very scary by the way. The Reishish Chochmah says, I don't know if any of you learned the Reishish Chochmah before. Reishish Chochmah is known to say very Kabbalistic, very scary, sharp things. One of the things the Reishish Chochmah says on a person that lies is that lying caused the Churban Beis HaMikdash, which means, according to that right now we don't have a Beis HaMikdash, and the reason the Gemara always tells us that we don't have a Beis HaMikdash is because the same Averi that caused the destruction is still here, and therefore it's considered as we destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. Look at the tzaros in the world, many tzaros in the world, right? There's other reasons, different reasons, there's a whole bunch of reasons. the first one, second one, whatever. But Reish Chachma says that's one of the reasons that caused that. It could be lying causes sinas chinam. That's maybe where it came from. Maybe that's the definition of sinas chinam, whatever it may be. But upon him, understanding that lying caused the destruction of Beis Hamikdash, Raf, means that we're still doing the same avera, causing the Beis Hamikdash not to be rebuilt, and that's very, very scary. There's a Gemara in Tainis Tav Ches, where the Gemara tells us that when people stop speaking the Emes, Shefa comes down into the world. You with me? Shefa comes down to the world when a person speaks Emes. V'ruach hachamim noiche emenu. Yaakov Avinu only spoke Emes, and he was zocher to tremendous shvatim. The chasima, what's the chasima? The signature of the Rabbeinu Shalom is Chosmo Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Emesu. It's Emes. The Rabbeinu Shalom runs the world, keeps the world, created the world. Everything about the Rabbeinu Shalom is pure Emes. Okay? And then the Aruch HaSadikim says that if a person speaks Emes, Mashiach comes as well. So Rabbi said we have over here, tomorrow, Be'ezah Hashem, we're going to go through some other things as well of people that lie. But we see the Gavaldige Milas of Emes. Being Emes with other people builds relationships. Being Emes with yourself builds a relationship with the Rabbeinu Shalom and makes you into a better person and builds you up as a person. And that's why it's so important, Rabbi said, to work on the midah of Emes. And that's what's doing in the Sugya Ben Adam Mechaveru, because it's not only you and Hashem, it's got a lot to do with you and other people. You cannot run a business, you cannot be married, you cannot have a friend. Imagine, think about your friends that you have right now. If they always lied to you, what type of friend is that? Eventually you're going to lose them. Eventually you're going to say, get out of here, I'm not interested in you. You cannot have a friend that tells sheker, that doesn't say the truth, that lies to you, that tricks you, deceives you. You're not interested in such a friend. You want a friendship, you want a relationship based on Emes. Rabbi say, Be'ez Hashem, in the coming days, we're going to be working on this Gavaldige Midah of Emes. Again, like I say, these Shiurim are not meant to be things that we only talk about in these Daled walls over here, but we're meant to be taking it with us with many more places. We're meant to be working at it through the day, thinking about our speech, how we speak, what we say. Many people, some people in Reb Shaila's were zocher to make Kabbalahs about speech, which is even more beautiful as well. We should keep those Kabbalahs, we should work on speech, think about what we say during the day, how much of it is Emes, how much is sheker, think about what it does to the world, what it does to everything else. And tomorrow, Be'ezah Hashem, we're going to talk about the people that lie. Now, Rabbi Say, another very important yesod is that you should realize that, there isn't that much longer till the end of this month.